In this video talk about how Adam Aron is finally fighting back against the shorts. Hey, welcome to AMC Daily. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications by hitting the bell so you never miss any of our uploads, and also enter our giveaway. But everyone, remember, this is not a financial advice video. Adam Aron now has this credible information, as he calls it, and is finally ready to go directly to FINRA and the NYSE and as high up the chain as necessary to rid AMC of the manipulation. So, Adam Aron tweeted last night saying that many of you and we are aware that AMC Entertainment has been on the threshold list for 3+ weeks, indicating a number of FTDs. He said, "Some of you may be pleased to learn that we have contacted both FINRA and the NYSE, asking that they both look closely at the trading of our stock." Adam Aron now has this credible information and the visible verifiable proof that AMC has remained on the threshold list for longer than permitted. The threshold list or regulation SHO suggests that AMC should be removed from the list within 14 days and all of those FTDs should be closed down. AMC has remained on the list for longer than 3 weeks, and therefore Adam Aron finally has this credible verifiable information to take up the chain. Right now, he has just reported to FINRA and to the New York Stock Exchange. But if they don't do what's necessary, he may go to the SEC and to the Department of Justice and whoever else is necessary. As Boss Blunts tweeted, he said, Adam Aron calls on FINRA and the New York Stock Exchange yet again to investigate the FTDs on AMC stock as it nears 24 consecutive days on the regulation show threshold securities list. He says, so what exactly is that, and how can the covering of FTDs actually be delayed? He said a threshold list is a list of securities whose transactions fail to clear for 5 consecutive settlement days at a registered clearing agency. Now, settlement failures may be indicative of improper and illegal naked short selling. The SEC implemented regulations show to reduce the abuse and the amount of illegal naked short selling if a lender cannot arrange to locate a share before letting it out to a short seller. That results in a fail to deliver ACA and FTD. And he said when naked short selling occurs and the affected securities aren't delivered, the associated transactions will fail to clear and create those FTDs. These failed transactions are reported regularly and potentially onto the threshold securities list. If those FTDs are concurrent and consecutive for 5 straight days, that obviously allows the SEC and other regulators to identify clues of improper and illegal naked short selling. Now, historically, FTDs could actually be reset through using the reset transaction. A reset transaction is usually accomplished through the use of a buy-right trade, but may also employ a married or divorced put. It may also incorporate the use of short-term flex options or potentially total return swaps as well, and therefore, to satisfy the close-out requirement and remove the FTDs from the threshold securities list, buy-rights, married puts, divorced puts, or both or all three, and particularly deep in the money, buy-rights or married puts can be used to close out of those FTDs. But obviously now, due to the changing rulings around total return, swaps around options disclosures, and obviously with the disappearance of those FTX synthetics, for whatever reason, these market makers can no longer reset those FTDs. And that is effectively why AMC has remained on this threshold security list not just for 1 or 2 consecutive days, but now for 24 consecutive days in total. The reason why AMC has remained on the threshold securities list for longer than 13 days and effectively those FTDs haven't been forced to close out is actually very interesting. As Boss Blunts tweeted, he said, if the security remains on the threshold list for 13 days, whoever is responsible for delivering those shares 13 days earlier must close out the failed position by purchasing equivalent shares in the open market. Now, interestingly enough, market makers are also not exempt from these close-out requirements and therefore are actually also forced to close out of those FTDs after 13 days. But many companies remain on the threshold list for months at a time, and that can be explained by a practice in which the FTDs are rolled over from one brokerage to another. But obviously passing those FTDs from one market maker to another and then backwards and forwards again is effectively just a type of wash trade. But effectively passing those FTDs from one market maker to another and then back and forth again is effectively just another type of wash trade. So, as user of intellect tweeted, he said, it will be interesting to see AMC join the rest of the victims of naked short selling and phantom share abuse to fight corruption. He said that Adam has obviously found big money partners and has produced a documented case of price suppression. Adam Aron has obviously worked with his lawyers and potentially external firms or other victims of naked short selling to contact FINRA and the New York Stock Exchange directly. But obviously the important question on everyone's mind is this actually going to make a difference? Is FINRA the New York Stock Exchange? And is the SEC actually going to do anything? Is the SEC actually going to do its job? Or is Adam Aron potentially going to have to go even higher up the chain to get some forced action? As Darren Harper tweeted, he asked, when is a prominent media source going to start holding the SEC and the FTC accountable? We've obviously just seen FINRA filing an immediately effective rule change extending the implementation date of amended Rule 4210, which is the margin requirements ruling. So obviously it seems that yet again, FINRA is still helping these short sellers and is likely not to listen to Adam Aron, especially because, as Stephanie said, Gary Gensler is clearly too busy tweeting about the definition of a yard to actually do his job and enforce some rules. Gary Gensler today tweeted answering the question of how long is a yard. He said it's used to depend on who you're asked, but today a yard is a yard. Gary Gensler is clearly too busy making these Twitter videos and not actually doing his job and enforcing the rules against those synthetic short sellers. If Gary Gensler, the SEC, FINRA, and the New York Stock Exchange aren't actually going to do their jobs, then who is? Will Adam Aron have to go directly to the Department of Justice or potentially even higher up the chain? Or could Adam Aron potentially take the SEC or the New York Stock Exchange directly to court and potentially upholding a federal RICO claim? As Roger Hamilton tweeted, he said, "Congrats to Basil and DPLS." He said it's the first time in history a U.S. court has upheld a federal RICO claim against a convertible note issuer. He said RICO is the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Law. Mark Basil tweeted, "Our client DPLS has defeated toxic lender Imag Group and Felicia Preston's motion to dismiss their federal RICO claims." He said this is the first case in our country against the convertible note issuer wherein a court has upheld a federal RICO claim for the collection of an unlawful debt. Hopefully this now sets the standard against toxic lenders and potentially against synthetic short sellers as well. So potentially this means that Adam Aron would stand more of a chance of bringing a federal RICO claim against those hedge funds and market makers manipulating AMC. And this also comes a very interesting time. Obviously, AMC has now been on the threshold securities list for 23, nearly 24 consecutive days. AMC has obviously been racking up more and more FTDs as the time goes by. And it will be interesting to see the second half of February FTD data to see just how many FTDs haven't yet been closed out. And the reason why this comes at an interesting time is because GameStop was actually on the threshold list for 39 consecutive days before the January 2021 run, up to $500 per share. We can see here that GameStop remain on the threshold securities list for 39 consecutive days from December of 2020 until February of 2021. If AMC extends from 24 consecutive days all the way to 39 consecutive days and potentially above, we could see AMC running to above $500, potentially even pre-split, maybe even higher. I think if AMC had a very similar run towards $500, I think that could absolutely cause the short squeeze. Guys, that's all we have for you today. What is your opinion about AMC stock? Get involved and let us know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.